eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light. In our galaxy, everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
We made it. We made it. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Sorry there was a bit of a problem with the time before. And we've also got a little problem with the mic. But I think it's going to be good enough for the show today. How are we all? Where are we all watching from? What time is it where you are? Let me know while I just fix things up, because we're not fully prepared. We never are, but it's okay. We're going to get there. First time tuning in live, long time fan, welcome aboard. I thought I would change up the time this week because, you know, a lot of the West Coasters, which is a big portion of the people who do tune in, haven't been able to make the shows. So welcome, guys, if this is your first time. Thank you for being here. Delaware, USA, Kentucky, Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, East Coast, USA. The mic is clipping big time. Is it really that bad? If it's that bad, I'll spend a few minutes fixing it quickly, but let me know what you guys think in the chat. What time is it for me? It is 11:03 a.m., which is the time this was always meant to be planned for, by the way. I don't know what happened. I guess it is my fault because turn the gain down a smidge. I actually have no gain, but I'll turn my mic down just a tiny bit. How about that? How about that? That looks a little bit nicer on the levels for me too. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I know a lot of you were in the chat about 40 minutes ago. That's my bad. Apparently, I scheduled the stream for 10 a.m. instead of 11, but here we are. Okay, a little bit lower. How about that? I am G-Bay in the chat. Welcome, welcome. 9:30 in Ohio, Sydney, Australia. Welcome, Sydney Sider. We got a lot of weirdos in the chat as well. Jared, Andy, Ryan, G-Bay, Mickey, Magic, Tamara, Sean, Nicole, Andy, Ace of Hearts, Rob Stewart, Beans and Rice, Serpenter, Nicole, Andrew. I think I doubled up on a few of you guys, but man, so much love in the chat. Can't tell you how thankful I am and how much I appreciate you guys being here. Zach Johnson, welcome as well. Well, guys, it's been a weird week. And, you know, it's one of those weeks where I thought we had the whistleblower that came out on Wednesday, right? And after that, we did a live stream for that. So I wasn't going to cover that in this episode. And I was thinking, man, what am I going to do for Weird Week this week? We haven't, like, there's nothing really going on. That changed quickly. In a matter of 24 hours, we had the hearing, we had the Hal Putoff interview, and by the way, no one's talking about it because we've had so much other stuff to talk about, but Jacques Vallée was interviewed for over an hour on News Nation by Ross Coulthart, and no one cares because everyone's too busy with all this other stuff. It's crazy. Now, guys, before we get too deep into the show, first of all, please give the stream a like because that's going to help us get pushed out there, help us collect everyone up. But before we get too deep into it, welcome Heidi Stanley. We have a little ceremony that we need to do just quickly. It's just a bit of a formality that has to be done because recently we leveled up. Now, if we could all just take out our Bibles at home, mine is a little bit dusty because it's been a little while. There we go. Get the dust off your Bibles, guys. Open it up to page 1, and you'll see here we have 4 conspiracy collection stickers collected so far. Well, today we level up and we get number 5, climate change. We collected this one recently on an After Dark episode, which is a members-only video. And I have to say, I never said the word climate change once, but I'll take it. Okay, we got to collect them all, and sometimes you just got to take what you can get. So this is the United Nations. Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns. Human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. Now, that is a verbatim quote from Wikipedia, the most valuable and correct and accurate source of information on the internet. Now, that's the 5th one we've collected. And some of you guys might know that, I was on Ashton Forbes' stream this week, about a week ago. But he's going to be coming on the channel this week coming up, probably in about a week's time. And I have a feeling we're going to collect another sticker on that episode. So I'm looking forward to that. But first thing up on the show, I mean, you can see the title and the thumbnail. The big thing on today's show is going to be about LUE. LUE, little LUE. You've done it again. But before we get into that, I want to talk about just a little bit about the Hal Putoff on Joe Rogan. Now, I actually finished the Hal Putoff podcast just last night. There's just been so much stuff to get through, right? And I have to say, it was a really good podcast, but there's a few things that we're going to talk about today. So I think, first of all, actually, you guys oh no, never mind. We'll get into that in a moment. Let's watch the clip first, and then we'll hook into it. That was the wrong one.
So you've never...
Oh, wow. We're really cooking it up today. Here we go.
One of our
This is the right clip.
remote viewers that was really good came up one day and said, I was looking around and I think I found a UFO base on Earth. This is during the remote viewing era, and oh my God, I've got to report this to my CIA contract monitor. And do I want to tell him that? And so I did, and one of the places he came up with but one of the places he came up with was Mount Zeal in Australia. And so my CIA contract monitor says, well, I know the station keeper, CIA station keeper out in Australia. I think I'll call him, and I won't tell him why I'm asking, but I'll ask him about Mount Zeal area. So he gave him a call, and he said, I'd like to ask you about that Mount Zeal area. He says, oh, you mean where the UFOs are always flying around?
Whoa.
So,
Okay. We're not going to watch that clip for too much longer because obviously I went deep in the last video. So if you haven't watched the last video I uploaded and you're interested in Mount Zeal, go and check that out. But the reason why I wanted to touch on it in this video is because there was, in my opinion, a lot not wrong with the podcast, but stuff that I think was obvious from the get-go. So the podcast started off with Hal Putoff talking about, Joe asked Hal, tell us about your history. How did you get into all this kind of stuff? And he goes through all of his accolades, all of his credentials, and there's not one mention of Scientology. Not one. And that is sus. Okay, so immediately, and there wasn't a mention, by the way, through the whole 2.5 hour podcast. So immediately, something isn't right because, I know Hal Putoff likes to pretend that his involvement in Scientology wasn't a big deal, but the truth is he was an operating Thetan 7 with over $300,000 invested. So immediately my alarm bells are going off. Now, let's talk about just quickly the remote viewing research that they did at SRI. So basically, Hal Putoff's remote viewing program at SRI was developed with Russell Targ, and that eventually turned into Project Stargate. And, this is where they had Ingo Swann came on board. Ingo Swann remote viewed Jupiter before the first probe went past it to see what it actually looked like. And apparently it was accurate. Okay, so this is just going off what Hal said. And basically they talked about, in that podcast, Hal talked about how he basically referred to quantum entanglement and said that quantum entanglement is their reason for how ESP works. But Hal even said himself, we don't know how it works though. And he said it's just words. Which is interesting, right? Because the whole thing about the UFO topic is that they wanted to keep it secret because they didn't quite know how it worked yet, right? which is fair. You want to try and work shit out before you go and tell the public. I understand that. But what I don't get is, if you, like, why are we getting it now then? Do you still don't know how it works, but you've just decided, we'll just tell them anyway? I feel like they do know. I feel like they do know how it works, but that's the part that we're not going to get. Because that makes sense, right? When we talk about 0 point energy, the whole thing is we want to release it, but we don't want our adversaries to kind of know, you know, how it works, essentially, right? That's the whole thing about 0 point energy. So it makes sense that when they're also talking about remote viewing and expanding and projecting consciousness, that they do know how it works. Otherwise, they wouldn't be telling us. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Josh, your mic is clipping a little. Man, I don't know what has happened to my sound settings, but it just is what it is. I've tried to fix it. It's probably not something I want to spend time doing live, because people are going to watch this show back as a pre-recorded show, and they probably don't want to listen to me doing that. Now, just quickly, I am just going to post that I'm live on Twitter, because I forgot to do that. Yeah, look, some people are saying there's no problem. Some people are saying it's clipping. Maybe it's headphone users or not. But I think either way is probably, hopefully it's good enough that you can still enjoy the show. That's all I'll say. So just getting into a couple of other things here. We just talked about remote viewing and how it works. Now I want to talk about the other things that he mentioned, which was kind of in the realm of consciousness and quantum physics, right? He's basically saying that our consciousness interacts with quantum level processes, which is basically like saying our consciousness can interact with parts of reality that we don't really understand, or just micro levels of reality that, yeah, by Hal's own admission, we don't fully understand. Whether they actually do or not, that's another story. He also said that, the quote was that basically UAP and remote viewing challenges materialist science and essentially points to deeper links between the mind and reality. Now, specifically that, is exactly what high-level Scientology focuses on. And again, there was no mention of Scientology in the whole podcast. So that's why this makes me sus, right? Because he spoke for so long. He spoke about all the things that Scientology is about, but never said the word Scientology. What do you guys think? Am I reading into this too much? Because remember, actually, I think we've got the slide here. I think I've missed, yeah, this one here. This is a table of Scientology's levels. And I think there's more than this now, but starting from the bottom left, where the start sign is, you can go all the way up. And then you start from the bottom on the right-hand side and you go all the way up again. And where that black circle is where Hal Putoff got to in Scientology, okay? I ran an estimate of how long it takes to get to that point, and it costs about $300,000 US. And I would say at the very minimum, probably like 2 years. At the very minimum, probably longer. I would say you would be into it longer to be investing that kind of money. Yet, there's not a single mention of it. That to me is sus, especially when he's now going on podcasts talking about all of the weird stuff that Scientology teaches, but it's not being taught under the lens of Scientology. It feels like subversion by the Scientology church. Jordan Bean, welcome to the Weirdos, my friend. Thank you for becoming a member. Can we please see some Polarity loves and Polarity hearts in the chat for Jordan Bean? So what do you guys think about that? I feel like I feel like there's something to that. Magic says 500,000 to get to that level. Yeah, 300,000 was a conservative estimate. So where is Tom Cruise on that scale? Great point, Andrew. I don't know. I'm sure it's probably public knowledge if you looked it up. But I have a theory that people like Tom Cruise and John Travolta probably get these courses, which is what they're called. You basically pay to do courses, and then you go, that's how you go up the levels. You pay to do courses. And I feel like people like Tom Cruise and John Travolta, who are public figures probably get courses for free or at a heavy discount, because they're kind of like, they're like influencers for the church essentially, but that doesn't really work much anymore. There's too much bad energy around the Scientology church, right? People don't want to know about it. It just feels like a weird cult. And I mean, you watch any documentary on Scientology, it's very cult-like. It's very cult-like. And I feel like, actually, I think it was in Danny Sheehan's interview on Area 52 with Chris Ramsey. He talks about how, well, he was actually, I think, the lawyer for L. Ron Hubbard at one point. And we're going to get to him in just a sec. But Danny Sheehan talks about how the Scientology church approached him to kind of be involved in the government and become like recognized as a proper religion. Obviously, they don't have to pay tax, which is true. They don't pay tax, which is kind of crazy, especially with how much money is involved. But yeah, I think there's something to the fact that what we're hearing now through psionics and consciousness is essentially what Scientology is. And remember, I went through this in that video, the one that's got Hal Putoff on the front looking like Darth Sidious. In that video, we spoke about how these processes started back in ancient Egypt, Hermeticism, right? And it evolved into occult practices through Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, and then it went to L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard wrote Dianetics, then turned it into Scientology, and now these same practices are being put into the CIA and government and now into the public. It's pretty much, I mean, maybe not word for word, but they are the same things rebranded, just changed slightly with a different coat of paint. They're all the same practices and they all relate to the esoteric. Danny Sheehan, the Jesuit who said he drew a picture of a UFO from the real Blue Book, then supposedly gave it to his buddy Archbishop, never to be seen again. I know, that is a very... I like Danny Sheehan, comes across as honest, but again, when you hear that, you know, it's like, oh, I had it, but it was in my house that burnt down. There's always just some stupid reason why, like, I don't have it anymore. It is very frustrating. It's very frustrating. Many senior leaders from religions, Mormons, Scientologists in senior government and intelligence roles. Yep, you're exactly right, Sydney Sider. The art of manipulating the control layer, Sean. I think more and more each day, people are starting to realize how controlled the consensus version of reality is. How controlled. And I mean, Matthew Brown said there are so many things that go on that just aren't written about, that people don't know. And I actually think, and I did want to cover this week actually, but I just forgot. I'm pretty sure the documents came out from the president of Argentina about what actually happened with the Nazis fleeing to Argentina. I haven't read it yet. I'm sure if there was like huge revelations, it would have probably blown up, but I'm pretty sure that's come out. And again, that's just coming back to what I'm saying about, you know, what we are told. It's not all lies, but I think a lot of it is. I think a lot of it is manipulated to just control the consensus, control the population, which sounds like, I don't mean control as in like full on like robotically, but I think we can agree that the truth is manipulated, and that's kind of what I'm getting at there. From Aurora, Colorado, first time tuning in live, Diesel Source, welcome my brother, thank you for being here. Now, on all this stuff, on this whole Scientology stuff, let's just get rid of this for a second. My man Red Panda put this up, which I thought was hilarious. I don't know why it's not playing properly. L. Ron Hubbard in heaven, watching Hal Putoff go on Joe Rogan. Do we have sound? Actually, I don't want to play that just in case we get copyrighted, but that was hilarious. I actually reposted this and said Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons are crying proud tears in heaven right now. Because it's true. It's the same shit. It really is the same shit. And I think it only takes just a little bit of looking into it all to realize that, and you know, I harp on about the connections to ancient Egypt. You've got Thoth, the god of wisdom, is literally carved into the doors at Congress, where a giant Egyptian obelisk is. You've got pyramids on the dollar bills. You've got Egyptian gods and symbolism all over the NRO patches. Like, it doesn't take a genius to think maybe there's something to this. I don't know. All right, let's keep moving. What do we got next? So, we'll move this aside just for now. So, in the podcast, he also talked about, he also gave a couple of quotes about non-human intelligence and UAP. So, I just want to touch on a few of those. Mr. Hal Putoff said that, he said, UAP show technology far beyond known human capabilities, which felt like, I don't know, maybe a bit of a lie. He claimed that US, Russia, and China have crashed non-human craft. I think that's something that we have kind of gathered by this point already, especially with the Matthew Brown, I nearly said Matthew Livelsberger, the Matthew Brown whistleblower this week. That was a very interesting story. The whole thing with the submarines, the Russian submarines being there before the craft appeared, it actually reminded me of the Pentridge incident. Now, people say that I'm saying that wrong. It's a Welsh word. Welsh people are afraid of using vowels, and their words are very difficult. But that's how it sounds like the people who tell the story say it, so that's how I'm going to say it. In the Pentridge incident, Kaz Clark says there were planes flying around this area for days or even weeks, as if they were like looking and waiting for something, and then suddenly this giant pyramid UFO appeared in the sky. And that is a very similar story to what was told by Matthew Brown in this incident that he saw in the Immaculate Constellation document. Now, what I gathered from the Hal Putoff interview is that Hal said that Joe asked him, have you guys remote viewed like UFOs, or have you remote viewed the bottom of the ocean? And I'm pretty sure Hal said, like, yeah, we actually have remote viewed UFOs, but he kind of said it kind of glazingly and then kind of dived off into something else, right? So what I find interesting about that is the fact that if people are remote viewing these UFOs and they can see them from a distance or maybe even perceive them in the future, like we're told remote viewing can do, it would make sense that these abilities were potentially used in the Pentridge incident and also in that Immaculate Constellation incident, right? Because also in that interview, Hal Putoff says they essentially got into gear with their psychic spy program because they knew the Russians were doing it. They basically realized the Russians were doing it and they were like, shit, we better do this too. And then they realized that it works. And then it's basically, you know, the rest is history. Autumn, welcome to the Weirdo Club. Thank you for becoming a member of the channel, guys. Can we see some polarity loves and hearts for Autumn in the chat? So I feel like remote viewing is potentially used for these craft showing up, because you guys know that I say a lot that a lot of what we see in the sky is man-made. That's kind of my belief right now, and beliefs change. Beliefs are fluid. They should always be, especially when you're presented with new evidence. That's how I'm feeling right now. But of course, a smaller percentage does have to be non-human. And I think we are potentially using these psychic abilities, according to Hal Putoff and the CIA, to find them, to view them. I don't know. It would make sense to me, right? When the whole thing revolves around consciousness, you use your consciousness to pilot these craft. I don't know. It makes sense to me. Let me know what you guys think. And guys, if you've just tuned into the stream and you're enjoying it, please give it a quick like for me. Let's help pump this thing up. Now, the next little thing that I wanted to talk about was a couple of other little comments, and then we'll move on. He said that they considered doing disclosure, or at least they thought about it during the Bush administration. So George W. Bush, the second one, and that they basically had a roundtable meeting and where they considered and calculated all of the potential benefits and cons of having disclosure. And apparently the main thing that Hal Putoff talked about was the fact that there was the biggest issue was the fact that aerospace company A had been given this technology and like reverse engineer, and that potentially might have led to that company becoming wildly successful, and companies B and company C ended up going bust and just going bankrupt, and the company didn't survive. And it basically sounded like to me the biggest reason that disclosure was not a good idea was that there's money. It's money. They're worried about people getting sued and money. Now, I'm sure there are other big reasons that they were considered, but the main one that Hal Putoff talked about in the interview was money related, which is just so sad. So sad that people are willing to let, bureaucracy, money get in the way of letting the rest of humanity understand the true nature of reality. Guys, can we please try something quickly? I just remembered there's the Discord link in the chat. Come and join, guys. We're basically active 24/7. It's a lot of fun in there. Can we please try? I set up a command in the chat. I don't know if it works, but if we do, I'm going to try it now. Ask Ty, like this. Ty, which is our bot that's in the Discord who helps us out, he will answer your question. So let's try ask Ty, when will disclosure happen? No, actually, let's see. Will disclosure happen in 2025? Hopefully this works. Okay, it didn't. Yes, it did. Okay, there we go. There we go. Ty says the sigils point towards no. So we are not getting disclosure in 2025. I would say 80% of the chat probably would have guessed that as well. Unlucky. Maybe in 2027. But all of you guys can do that. Ty will give you an answer. Yoshi says, how great is Josh? And Ty says, the answer lies with MH370. Good luck finding it. There should be some fun responses in there. I crafted them with Ty myself. So have some fun with that. Hopefully he can reveal the future to you guys. Now, I have one more clip from... This is a funny clip. I have one more clip from the Hal Putoff interview that I want to show you guys that I haven't seen anyone talking about because it's more funny than anything. So let's take a look at this. Okay, this is, in my opinion, Hal Putoff just short circuiting and just struggling to lie.
So you've never been hopped in a jet?
By the way, this is Joe Rogan saying, like, have you ever been out to see a craft or see a crash retrieval? Have you ever seen anything yourself? Check him out.
And flown to the wreckage and had a chance to look at things?
No, haven't.
God, don't you want to?
Well, I sure.
He's like, nope. And then he's looking down, so nervous. Like when your dog chews something and you show them what they chewed? That's what he's doing. When they're just, your dog's just like, oh, shit. No, I haven't seen a UFO. What?
Would like to do that.
Sorry, I'm talking over it, but just sorry, let's listen again.
Jet and flown to the wreckage and had a chance to look at things?
No, haven't.
God, don't you want to?
Well, I sure would like to do that. But
Yeah.
that's still. We had this discussion earlier about
Changes the subject. Dude, I just found that so funny that nope. Silence. Anyway, changes. Who ate? Yes, exactly. Joe just asked Hal who ate my slippers, and he just went into full guilt mode. Yeah, you don't need to be a body language expert for that one. I mean, like I said, it was already sus that there was no mention of Scientology, but he really crumbled on that question. And I think the body language, the vocals, the changing of subject, the silence, the everything like that, he really lost it there. But, I want to say as well, I think that I don't think the whole thing is a lie, by the way. Like, I think there's probably a lot of truth in that podcast. There's probably a lot of interesting bits in the podcast. But, I think we got to be careful. We got to use a bit of discernment on what's what there. But I think he really dropped the ball. by the way, $2 super chat from my man Magic. Welcome, Autumn, my fiance, Autumn, welcome, you little weirdo. Thank you for the super chat, brother. So I think that's about that one for now. I think it's probably time to move into LUE. It's time to talk about little old LUE. And he's done it again. Guys, can we please get a couple more likes on the stream? Let's get this thing pushed out there. If you haven't chucked a like on it, help us out. LUE Elizondo has done it again. I think I'm going to show you the clip just to refresh us on what happened, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, that's not the right one. That's the apology clip. It looks like I don't have the clip here, but I actually do have it, so just give me a moment.
All right, folks. The next part of this panel discussion will involve national security. Before we begin, I'd like to share something with you. This has not been planned, and I just received permission to share this with you this morning.
Let's take, now that we know what's happened after the fact, let's take careful note on what he's saying, okay? Let's take careful note of what he's saying, because we're going to listen to how he's responded to the criticism as well. So apologies about the sound. This is actually my clip where I improved the sound, so you can imagine what it was like beforehand. And also the subtitles aren't always correct, but, you know, $500 version of DaVinci Resolve, by the way.
I'd like to share something with you. This has not been planned, and I just received permission to share this with you this morning.
He's just received permission to share this.
And the reason why I'm sharing this with you now is because I think it's important and relevant to this next conversation with these two individuals who I'll introduce to you in a minute. Very relevant to this conversation. We talk about national security a lot, and our pilots, they're men and women in uniform, bravely fight wars for us in combat. There's a whole sector out there that we also have to be cognizant of. That's our commercial pilots and civilian pilots. And
Sound is so bad.
Photograph that has never been made public. It was taken in 2021 over the Four Corners region at an altitude of approximately 21,000 feet by a private pilot outside of his aircraft. And this is a photo. I'll give a copy for Congress to see. It was taken by a information on the camera, and I just received permission today to share this.
Just got permission.
It is a lenticular object, and when you look at the shadow being cast, it is significantly large. It's an altitude of 21,000 feet. Taken by a civilian pilot. Now, why is this important?
Why is this cornfield important? Does anyone have an answer for that? Why is this cornfield important?
This is taken from a civilian pilot, right? Not a FLIR system, not an infrared system, but an average person with an average camera at 21,000 feet. And the object potentially is anywhere between 600 to 1,000 feet in diameter. It's a lenticular object, and it is silver. Now, I cannot vouch for the veracity of this photograph. I didn't take it. But this is an
Can't vouch for the veracity of it. Maybe shouldn't be sharing it.
example of one of many, many, many incidents involving commercial and private pilots. And guess what? They don't know where to report it. Guess what? Congress has no idea that this is happening on a regular basis. That's a problem. And the reason why I decided to share this photograph with you taken from a civilian pilot now is because the same challenges that our pilots, our military pilots, are facing as to where to report it, who's going to analyze it, what do you do with the information, multiply that for the civilian aviation community. Do they report to the FAA? Do they report to NORA? Maybe the Air Force? Maybe the civilian organization, right? Who's responsible for getting this information out? Again, let me caveat, this has not been vetted. This was taken by a civilian pilot.
So he's just said that this has not been vetted.
But once again, you would think this information would be important for somebody to look at. Certainly someone in government.
Let's listen to that bit again.
But once again, you would think this information would be important for somebody to look at.
Like
Certainly some
you.
of the government, certainly some of our representatives that are sitting here, right? If these are over sensitive military installations, whose are they? What are their capabilities? What are the intent? Right? But
So if these cornfields are over sensitive government installations, what do you guys think the implications could be of that? Do you think these cornfields could be a threat to our national security? Now, let's talk about this. How is this happening? How does this keep happening, right? LUE Elizondo is meant to be the face of disclosure, right? At least the face of disclosure that is being pumped through the mainstream, right? Imagine if Stephen Greer did this, because LUE Elizondo has done this and he's getting twice now. This is the second time, and he's getting shitloads of people like defending him, saying, don't worry about it, it's a mistake. And, you know, of course, people do make mistakes. I get that. But if Stephen Greer did this, he would be torn to shreds. To shreds. And Stephen Greer was, you know, arguably right about like CE5 and projection of consciousness and things like that. Stephen Greer has got a few things right, and he's been doing it for a lot longer than LUE has, at least in the public eye. Now, I'm not saying this to try and stick up for Stephen Greer, but I'm just trying to say, like, look at the comparison. Like, look at the way different people are treated publicly, yet then compare what they've both brought to the table. It doesn't add up. It does not add up. And, you know, the funny thing is, this guy is meant to be an intelligence officer. Intelligent. I know they're not obviously the same thing, but the wording is ironic, right? This guy's holding up pictures of cornfields. Intelligence officer, by the way. It just isn't right. So let me just catch up on a couple of super chats here before we keep moving. Magic with the 3-month super chat. 3 months of membership. Maybe he should have just brought his own images. He has 4K pics and wonders why people are skeptical of him. Exactly. You know, LUE Elizondo many times has talked about the 4K videos that are 40 minutes long, triangles the size of oil rigs coming out of the ocean. Where are they, bro? Where are they? No one cares about this. And Shadronica, welcome to the Weirdos Club. Thank you very much. Can we see some Polarity loves, Polarity hearts in the chat? And a $3 super chat from Rod Reynolds. Love your work, man. Appreciate you, Rod. Thanks for being here. So let's keep moving. What are the potential reasons for this? Well, either, in my opinion, the only reasons for this is I can think of two. But if you guys can think of more, I want to hear what you guys think in the chat, because I'm just the same as you. I don't know any more than you guys. I'm just the voice. Okay. First of all, LUE is either an honest guy who is genuinely trying to push disclosure forward, and someone above him, someone in his team, is trying to derail him and make him and in turn the entire topic look like a fool. Okay, so basically trying to keep the cover-up happening by derailing the public effort of disclosure. That's option one. Okay, because like he said, he was given this just today. Like, oh, just the day that I happened to go public in front of a large audience, this picture just happened to fall in my lap. What a coincidence, right? I mean, as an intelligence officer, you should think that's sus. I think I would, if that's what actually happened. Or LUE is like just literally the modern Rick Doty disinformation agent applying his counterintelligence background to the UFO topic and trying to muddy the water. They are the only two options I can think of. Now, when I talked about this initially, I think I might have went back and forth with a few people on Twitter. I feel like I had a third option that was kind of viable in my mind, but it's not coming to me right now. Cat Simpson, you think he's a new Rick Doty? It's definitely shaping up that way, right? Disinformation agent for sure. He doesn't do a very good job at not being sus. I think one of the things, even Rick Doty doesn't trust him. I think one of the things for me with LUE is that when he speaks, he doesn't come across as authentic to me. And there are just like the way people talk, and obviously he has clearances and things that he has to try and dance around, whatever. But the amount of times he gets asked a question and he instead of asking the question, he'll say, let me just back up on that for a second, or let me try and thread the needle. He says these like pause words, that these pause phrases that to me come across as someone who is trying to just pump the brakes on the conversation a little bit so they can quickly find a way to weasel their way through the answer and control the narrative. That's how that comes across to me. That's just my opinion. So that's never sat right with me. Okay, that's never sat right with me. And also the fact that, you know, he came out in 2016, 2017 with To the Stars, and that's when he left the government. He's never worked for the government since then, but when he left the government, he told us that there are these unknown threats in the sky. That's it. That was the story back then. Now, it's much deeper than that. We've found out he's remote viewing prisoners in Guantanamo Bay, that he knows that there are reverse engineered craft and biologics. Like, the story's changed massively, massively. So why didn't you tell us that when you got out the government in 2016, 2017? It doesn't sound very whistleblower-like to me. That sounds very, I'm rolling out a roadmap of controlled disclosure to me. That's just how that comes across. So my screen's a bit messy today, but I'm trying to keep the chat going as well. So also, what has this done to this topic, right? First of all, how are people going to react when LUE Elizondo shows the next picture of a UFO? Okay, he's done the chandelier, he's done the cornfield. What are we going to get next? And how are people going to react? Like, when this guy shows something, everyone's just going to be like, yeah, okay, bro. Okay. Like, no one's even going to believe him. And more people are going to be trying to debunk it now because they're just going to be certain it's bullshit, rather than people actually taking it seriously. And if you Google like UFO or UFO news, all mainstream outlets that have reported on it are not talking about, you know, Eric Davis mentioning that there are 4 known alien species. None of that. All of the mainstream outlets are talking about, you know, this photo here, and it's like UFO guy shows cornfield. UFO man thinks cornfield is a UFO. That's basically the headlines in the mainstream right now. So, you know, what has this actually done to the topic? It's ruined, well, it's not ruined it, but this topic already struggles to get any mainstream traction. And this man shows cornfield thinking it's UFO headline has got more traction than like any UFO story in the last 5 years. So he's really shat on it, I think it's fair to say. Because, you know, we're gonna get into LUE's apologies in a moment, but he is essentially the face of disclosure. Like, and when I say disclosure, what I mean is the government's controlled effort of disclosure. You know, you guys know my opinions on disclosure. I think it comes from within. We don't need the government to tell us what we already know is real. But when he is the face of the government disclosure, you can't get on TV or a live stream or whatever and say, oh yeah, there's this giant photo of a UFO. It's not vetted though, but I got permission to share it. And then when people debunk it and go, what the hell? You can't turn around and be then like, I said it wasn't vetted. Like, well, bro, no. Vet stuff, okay? You go on about how credible you are and how good your credentials are. When you show a picture, we expect that it's going to be real, okay? We don't expect you to show us a cornfield, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you have if you're going to be this guy, you have a responsibility to vet shit, you know? And if I was that guy, if I was him and I had his responsibility and someone just happened to throw a photo in my lap the day I was going on a live stream and say, oh, this is a UFO, I'm not going to go up and be like, this is a UFO. I got permission to share this, because I don't know that, you know? I would be using my 20 years of intelligence gathering skills to vet that image and make sure that what I show, because I care about this topic, because I care about the truth, right? That's why I'm going to vet it and make sure what I put out is the truth and not a cornfield. Are you with me or are you with me? Exactly. He should have vetted it. He should know that if it's fake, it would do more harm. Why would he risk it in the case that it's fake? Exactly. Exactly. Now, let's take a look at his apology. I think I've actually got that up on the browser, so let's get this up here. Okay. I'm going to read through this, and we've also got his apology video that just literally went up like a couple of hours ago, so we'll watch that as well, but I'll quickly get through this. So, LUE Elizondo says, as you guys know, I'm always first to admit mistakes, but this is not one of those times. Oh, the lack of accountability. The facts regarding the photo I shared from a private pilot, as I emphasized several times yesterday during the forum, are as follows. The specific photo had only just been provided to me by a private pilot that morning prior to the forum. You should have thought that was sus. The photo had not yet been vetted. You shouldn't have showed it then. The dimensions I quoted were per the pilot's own assessment of what he saw based on altitude and experience. The purpose of me showing the photo was to illustrate the need for civilian and commercial pilots to have a central reporting mechanism to report potential anomalous sightings. In this case, the pilot who took the photo using his own camera did not have a way to report what he believed to be anomalous. Now it's he believed. He's passing the buck now. The pilot said it was not anomalous, not me. I was just reporting it. Once again, as I stated during the forum, I only received permission to release it that morning and only was made aware of it shortly before. Who gave you permission? Who did you have to ask to show a picture of a cornfield? Not sure how many times I need to say it, so I will say it again. The photo was not yet vetted, and I made that perfectly clear. Like, he's getting, like, on the front foot about it. Like, he's getting, like, aggressive. Like, how many times do I need to say it wasn't vetted? It's like, well, bro, people expect way more of you, okay? People don't expect you, the guy, you're that guy. People don't expect that guy to be showing unvetted photos, okay? That's just no good. That's no good for anything. This illustrates a bigger point here. When pilots or anyone else for that matter come out to share what they feel may be anomalous, are faced with fierce ridicule instead of productive dialogue from some in the UFO community. They learn quickly not to ever share again. That sounds like he's almost like gaslighting people to be like, if you're going to attack me for sharing a fake photo, I'll never share anything again. Well, I don't think people are even going to believe anything you share now. Like, you've cooked it twice. It's the boy who cried wolf. As I communicated during the forum, my purpose of sharing the photo was to simply illustrate there is no central reporting mechanism in place for private and commercial pilots to report what they believe might be anomalous and for these photos or videos to be vetted. This remains a serious issue. Pilots see things on a daily basis they can't explain, some identified, some misidentified, and some truly anomalous that require additional analysis. In the end, whether a private pilot sees what turns out to be a cloud, a balloon, a tennis shoe, or a UAP, we need a reporting mechanism to ensure that it can be analyzed and resolved. This was the reason I shared the photo, and I emphasized that several times during the forum. Now, to be fair to him, he did say that he did talk about the pilots need a reporting mechanism, and that's fair enough. But let's be real. When, as someone like LUE Elizondo, who is so deeply embedded in the culture, you know that if you share a picture of what you're saying is a UFO that is allegedly that big, which is like, that's the size of like the MCG, which is a 100,000 seater AFL stadium in Australia. That looks like the size of the MCG, which is huge. Melbourne Cricket Ground, if anyone who doesn't know it and wants to look it up. So if someone tells me the MCG is floating above the ground, I don't give a shit about pilots who can't report what they think is a cloud or not. I care about the floating MCG, and to act like that's the only reason you showed it, and that you're shocked that people got so wound up over what they thought was a UFO is like, it's literally gaslighting. He's gaslighting you into like being an idiot on diving on, like getting too wound up over this. That's what he's doing. So I really don't like this. Yeah, he's, the whole I've been approved to show you this gives it this kind of weird like formality, and then to go on and gaslight people into like getting so wound up over it is just ridiculous. Someone actually in my YouTube comments put this perfectly, and I wanted to share that, and then we'll watch his video. So this was a comment I got on the LUE Elizondo video, which was a little clip that I made of LUE at the hearing. So this person said, okay, listen, everyone, if Dr. Stephen Greer were to show one of these goofy ass, easily debunked pictures or videos, he would get entirely flamed. He would have not a shred of a following afterwards. This man, LUE, who has such an impeccable credentials, just showed this in a hearing, and some people will constantly say things like, yeah, I get it, people make mistakes. Are you kidding me? Wake up, everyone. LUE is opposition. He works for the government, not for the people. He has done this 3 times now. I must say I can only think of 2, but if anyone wants to remind me of the 3rd, let me know. And he still has so many backers and followers. Is this seriously not clicking for people? This guy is literally an actor. He has been stalling because that is his job. He is told what to do and he does it. He sways the public opinion. He's been in the public eye for 8 years, and literally what do we have to show for it? Fake evidence again. Aren't you Mr. Super Secret Top Clearance guy? You don't have one real photo to share with the public. This is reality TV. This is clown shoes. Damn. What a mic drop from RFN Pictures. I feel like he just put that comment so well. Obviously, guys, use your own discernment. I'm not saying that what that statement is entirely true, but it absolutely needs to be said. It needs to be said, and people need to hear that and let it simmer in your own mind and start to think about what is actually going on. Because, I can't prove that that's true, but it makes a lot more sense. Like, that makes way more sense than when we think like, why does this guy who worked in intelligence for 20 years, he keeps making these silly mistakes? Silly old LUE. Oh, it's just a chandelier. Oh, well, next one. Oh, it's a cornfield. Oh, well, next one. Like, wake up. Wake up? I don't know. And, I don't like to, like, call people out and do that shit, but I feel like this just needs to be out there and people need to hear this and make up your own mind. So we can move on from that now. Now, actually, before we talk about that just a little bit, which is still more about LUE, do you guys want to watch the video that LUE put out? It's 7 minutes long, but it's basically LUE addressing it with what am I trying to say? Addressing this on a video. He's talking about it, his apology and how he feels, and it's a video, but it's 7 minutes long. So if you guys want to sit through that, we can, and we can talk about it. But if not, we'll keep moving on. Let me know what you guys think. Okay. I'm only seeing yeses in the chat, so it's sounding like we should play it. Only if we can clown on Boohoo LUE. Let's go, just 7 minutes. All right, let's do it. Here we go.
Hi folks, LUE Elizondo here. I thought I'd take a few minutes and talk to you folks about a interesting week we had on Capitol Hill. For the most part, I think by and large it was very successful, but I do want to address something. During part of this forum that we had on Capitol Hill, right before we started, I was provided a photograph from a private pilot who had asked me, he was concerned that there was no real reporting mechanism. And we've known there's no real civilian reporting mechanism for private pilots to report UAP. And he took a few moments and explained to me what he saw surrounding this photograph. And so...
Bro just said LUE needs stilts. Oh my God, what a stray bullet.
So I made the command decision right there and then that I would use that photograph as an example of why we need some sort of civilian reporting system for our civilian pilots. Now that the military is taking this topic seriously, we still have this big gap between civilian aviation and military aviation. And so I made the determination right there and then to go ahead and use that photograph as an example. And looking back now that people have reacted the way they have, I just want to make it clear. I did say several times the photograph has not been vetted, and quite frankly, I did not have the time at that moment to vet it myself.
Shouldn't have showed it then.
I think it was interesting and important enough to at least use it as an example why we need civilian reporting. And unfortunately, I think that message got confused. Now, it's possible I did not communicate it effectively, and if that's the case, I accept full responsibility.
Fair
But
play.
I think it's important for you all to know that the intent of that was not to say, hey, look, this is a UFO. I never said that.
You didn't say, hey, look, this is a UFO, but you kind of did. And I feel like you should be smart enough to know that that's exactly how it's going to be taken. Like you've been in this subject long enough to understand what the community are like, what people who are interested in this topic are like. Everyone's like just a drooling, hungry hyena waiting for something new, and that was just going to get latched onto. So, I mean, he did say sorry if he didn't communicate it effectively, and you have to say fair play to that. Like he apologized, but he should know better.
It was to say, look, here's an example of a photograph taken by a private pilot who doesn't know what it is. And what he described to me, I took at face value that he was telling me the truth, and I still believe that individual was telling me the truth. And I think we need to be careful when we come out and we take a photograph, again, that had already been told, had not been vetted, right? So I said, look, folks, it hasn't been vetted. I just received it that morning. There was a lot going on. I made the decision to share that. And I made that decision because I thought it would be helpful in the conversation. Clearly, looking back now, it's not. It was a distraction to everything that a lot of people, a lot of hard work by a lot of people did to put this forum on for you, the American people, you, not me. I don't need it. It's for you. And I sincerely apologize that this photograph became a distraction and became the one thing people are now talking about when there was really so much more there, really important things. We had folks like Mike Gold talking perspectives of NASA and Anna talking about business and NSF, the National Science Foundation. We had Chris Mellon and Admiral Gallaudet and all these wonderful people, Dr. Eric Davis, telling you information that I thought was very, very important, and also the members of Congress. And so, once again, I hope that this does not become an unnecessary distraction. I feel that it is, and if it makes people feel better, I will accept full responsibility. But it wasn't intended to fool anybody or say, hey, look, here's a picture of a real UFO. It's like, hey, here's a real photo taken by a pilot who is confused, who doesn't know where to report things, and what he actually thought he saw, he believed.
So look, fair play. He is actually taking accountability here, way more accountability than he did in his post. So, you know, you have to just kind of take that and say, okay, cool. But what I find weird is that he's really sort of pushing on this angle that like now I showed this because these pilots, won't somebody think of the pilots? These pilots, they've got nowhere to report these things. Okay, what am I going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? Don't show us, bro. Take that to the aerospace people. Take that to your FAA people. Like, that's no good showing us that. All we're going to do is go, holy shit, it's a UFO the size of the MCG. That's the only thing that we're going to do. So don't know what you expected. I'm not going to be able to create a place for the pilots to report something. Don't show that to us, okay? Because you're not going to get it's the wrong place, brother.
And so rather than ridiculing that, I think, it'd be a lot more helpful and beneficial if we could have a conversation about it instead of a fist fight about it. We always seem to have these fist fights in the UFO community.
It is true.
These weird knee-jerk reactions. And I'm telling you, it's not helpful for people who want to come out and tell the truth.
I think what you did is way less helpful for people who want to come out and tell the truth. You've just clowned the whole subject. People are fist fighting because they're frustrated. They're pissed off. They've been lied to for 80 years and we're still getting strung along. That's why people fist fight, because they're pissed off. And I feel like he's just made it a lot harder. He's just set us back.
If they're worried about being lambasted or their photograph or their quote-unquote evidence being ripped to pieces, instead of looking at it constructively and saying, hey, look, we don't think this is, the photograph doesn't show anything anomalous, it shows X, Y, Z, that's fine. But the person who shared that photograph with me right now is very upset and very concerned. And you know, I hope in the future we can take a breath for a moment and try to treat each other a little bit more kindly. Okay, this is tough work. A lot of effort's been put into this, and Congress is going out on a limb and taking a big risk as well doing this. And if there are hiccups happen, guys. And I apologize. And again, I will accept full responsibility like I always do. It was not intentional. It wasn't intended to mislead anybody.
Young Kang just made a really interesting point that photo is literally taken on the exact same angle that the Google Earth picture is. And he's saying it suggests it's from Google Earth and it's just edited to be more grainy and smudged to confuse as many people as possible. That is a very great point. Well done, mate. It's literally the exact same angle. What are the chances of that?
Intended to drive home a point that there is a pilot out there, and
cop that, Jared.
Many of them just like him who have nowhere to report UAP information. And that was the whole point of that photograph. And I actually took the time, the moment I received it, I made a judgment call right there. You know what? I think this is important enough to help drive the point home, whether it's a crop circle, a tennis shoe, or a real UAP. The point is that there are thousands of people out there that are in desperate need of some sort of resolution. And so I was trying to use that photograph to drive that point home. Now, obviously, if that did not get communicated, that's my fault and that's my issue. And I will absolutely own that, as I do every one of my mistakes. But let's not forget, guys, there's a lot of good stuff that was said in that meeting by a lot of people other than myself. And that's really what I think you need to take home from this.
I think we can probably end that there. He's starting to just yap. He's starting to yap now. But we'll move on to the next topic. If anyone didn't see just then in the chat, Jared asked our fortune teller Ty, which is the guy who pops up whenever anyone becomes a member here. He said, "Is LUE a colloquial term for an outhouse?" And Ty said, as a wise man once said, "Sit on it and rotate." So guys, if anyone wants to find out the future, find out the truth, you can !ask Ty, and you can ask him a question in the chat as well. $5 super chat from Sweaty Big Toe, one of the favorite names that I see in the chat. Lead us to the truth, Josh. I will do my best, brother. Thank you for the $5, and thank you for being here. Now, let's move along. Now, you guys might remember this video that I did a little while ago, and it was about Kelly Chase, who made an announcement, which was done on audio, and then Red Panda Koala overlaid his own footage to her audio and kind of put out a audio-visual essay style piece in the style that he makes all his videos. He's a really good visual storyteller with like B-roll footage. And basically after he did that, it was about Kelly Chase was essentially talking about how she didn't name anybody, but she was talking about how there are people within the UFO circles that, you know, if you're not saying the right thing or you're not kind of towing the line, they kind of revoke access or they make your life hard, which is something that Red Panda has spoken about for a while because, I mean, he had his YouTube channel deleted for documenting the drones. And I covered that in this video. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up now is because after this whole saga of LUE Elizondo posting pictures of cornfields came out, Kelly Chase weighed in on it. So I wanted to kind of show you guys the interaction and what happened there. So basically, Chris Ramsey, Area 52, posted the two pictures and said, seems like a match, oh well, on to the next one. So basically highlighting the fact that it's been debunked and kind of shrugging his shoulders and going, whatever, let's just move along. Now, I like his positivity. I like the whole, you know, water off a duck's back, let's keep moving. It's good vibes, right? It's good energy. You got to love that. But at the same time, you know, I can appreciate that after the chandelier, for sure. But second time, I think it warrants a few questions, which we've already gone through, so we don't need to go through that. But Kelly Chase reposted that and said, I like Chris's attitude, but not sure we should be saying on to the next one. And at what point does it become okay to ask the obvious questions about exactly why and how this keeps happening? Because I have serious questions. And a totally valid, I mean, it's exactly what we've all just talked about, right? So we don't really need to go into that too much further. After that, Chris Ramsey replied saying, I just put it in the debunk basket and move on. Too many people crying over spilt milk. And Kelly said, crying over spilt milk implies that people are being emotional over something trivial. It's not trivial. This is the second time that LUE has presented an easily debunked image as authentic. I'm not suggesting that people jump to accusations. Okay, I forgot to include the rest of that. But hey, you get the idea. So the reason why I wanted to include this is because in that video that I showed you the thumbnail of, Kelly Chase kind of replied to Red Panda's video with a statement kind of like distancing herself because, like I said, in her initial statement, she never named anyone. But when Red Panda put video to it, he kind of put faces on the screen at the times where she was saying certain things, and it definitely made a piece that implied that's who she was talking about. And as I say in that video, the first time I saw it, I thought it was all one. I didn't realize that. I thought Red Panda just reposted that. I didn't realize that he made the visual, right? So you could argue that it's putting words in people's mouths. And that is how Kelly Chase kind of hit back at Red Panda saying like, you know, I'm not implying this, I'm not implying that. And that's why I made a video, because that sounded weird. Like it was pretty clear what she was implying. And it was weird that she kind of tried to backpedal on that, I thought. But I like Kelly Chase. She's cool. I wasn't familiar with her work before that video, but I've since followed her and seen what she's done, and seen her takes. And I think she's really cool. She has a lot of good takes. So then this happened, right? So then now she's starting to ask questions about LUE. And, you know, she's pushing back on people saying, you know, we should just move on, not worry about it. She's kind of saying, no, like, you know, this is the face of disclosure, posting pictures of chandeliers and cornfields. Hello, when are we going to maybe say what the hell is going on here? Then she posted this. Man, that was quick. The message is clear. Don't believe your lying eyes and don't ask questions. If those questions are legitimate and respectful, even if those questions are legitimate and respectful, my only regret is not speaking up sooner. So to me, that confirms that the initial statement that she made, that she tried to distance herself off after Red Panda put visual to it. And by the way, it's all in that video if you want to go check out that thumbnail. This confirms to me that, you know, it was exactly the way Red Panda portrayed it with his video. And there you see it. LUE Elizondo has blocked you. Okay, but it gets weirder. Right? It gets weirder. And if you guys spend a bit of time on Twitter, you probably see that like LUE Elizondo blocks people very liberally. Anyone who kind of says something he doesn't like, he just blocks them. And he's kind of like, you know, he'll repost himself blocking him, going like, her, blocked, haha, blocked. Like he just does it. It's like fun for him. Which is fine, right? I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with blocking people because, you know, there are some... I nearly said the R word, but I'm trying to keep things a little bit more tame on stream. There are some silly people on X who it is sometimes just easier to block them. I mute some people because like some people just have the most like negative and outlandish takes. And I'm actually a believer in listening to the opposite side. I think it's important to hear takes from the other side because it helps give you an informed opinion on what's actually going on rather than just getting your information from an echo chamber. But this happened, right? And this is where it gets weirder. After this, LUE Elizondo, okay, damn it. LUE, okay, I don't have the thing. Yeah, I don't have the thing. Damn it. I really thought I did. Okay, that's okay. Basically, LUE Elizondo replied to a comment saying like, oh, I just checked all the people that I've blocked and Kelly Chase is there. I didn't do that. He basically took zero accountability again. He said something like, oh, that's weird. I didn't block her, but I just checked my blocked accounts and she's there. Oh, well, she's unblocked now. So apparently he unblocked her. You know, okay, bro. Like, how did that happen? You know, it's the worst gaslighting. It's like, you know, it's like those little stupid things that no one can prove. Like, okay, we can't prove that you didn't block her, but, you know, has your Twitter ever accidentally tweeted something that you didn't tweet? Have you ever reposted something you didn't repost? Have you ever replied to a comment on something that you didn't actually do. No, Twitter doesn't just do things. These, you know, your accounts don't just spontaneously block and unblock and comment and repost, okay? It just doesn't happen. So how did it happen? You know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yes, Heidi, you're exactly on the money with crazy X behavior, like the whole blocking, unblocking, gaslighting. You know, it's like when you forget to reply to someone, and, you know, we've all done it. We've all done it when you forget to reply to someone and you say like, oh, I wrote it, I just forgot to hit send. Did ya? Did you just forget to press send? No, you fucking didn't. Sorry. No, you didn't. You just forgot to reply. Okay? Just admit it. It's fine. And Lou, just admit it. You got mad. You got a little bit upset because someone was talking about you and you didn't like it, and you blocked her. Just like if you scroll down on your timeline, you repost the fact that you block everyone else. So let's not play silly games, Lewis. Now, interestingly enough, Red Panda again made a fantastic poll trying to figure out who must have hacked Lou Elizondo's phone and blocked Kelly Chase, because it wasn't him. It wasn't Lou. Some magical fairy must have done it. So he ran a poll to try and get the, you know, a bit of census data on who might have hacked Lou's phone. And the results are clear. By a landslide, it was obviously the reptilians. I personally would have been banking on Susan Goff, but, you know, she came in last place. It was obviously the reptilians. Now, whoops. We got a little bit more to get into. I don't want this show to I like to try and keep this under 2 hours, but we got a little bit more to get into. So let's keep on moving. That's the little old Lou done for the day. We've talked about him enough. Next thing we're going to talk about is this guy. Eric Davis. The guy with like the same style as every dad at the family barbecue. He, in front of thousands of people, talked about the fact that we have reptilians and insectoids. Okay, he skipped Greys, he skipped Nordics, he went straight to the jackpot. Okay. $2 from Toxic Fart. Josh, you going to hike around Mount Zeal? Maybe one day. I've never been to Uluru, so I do want to go to that part of Australia because it looks beautiful. And I mean, while I'm there, I couldn't not go to Mount Zeal or Pine Gap. I'd like to go as close as I could to Pine Gap just to check it out. But, you know, I'm sure it's not going to be a very eventful video. I'll probably walk up to the edge of where you're allowed to go and be like, woo, I'm on the edge of Pine Gap, and then leave because, you know, what am I going to do? I'm not going to walk in and get shot for a video. You know, what am I going to do? All right, so I've got the clip here of Eric Davis talking about these four beings. And if you guys haven't seen, the audio for the whole hearing was just shot to pieces. Like some of it was completely inaudible. I did my best that I could to fix it. And using the paid version of DaVinci Resolve, which is $499, by the way, I used the AI in it to give captions. And some of the captions are so off, it's hilarious. But I've kept them in so we can laugh at them. But we're gonna play just the Eric Davis clip talking about beings, and also note how Avi Loeb and Tim Gallaudet on the left are kind of laughing at him while he talks about this. Check this out.
They're typically the multiple species people.
Also, keep an eye on the captions, but they're not accurate, but they're funny.
Really, like the Greys, the Nordics. People are talking about reptilians and insectoids. It's not that they're reptilian or insectoid. It's that they resemble to the percipient.
Bro, look at Eric Burleson. He's like, is this guy talking about insectoids and reptilians on a live stream? What?
A reptile or an insect type humanoid, because they have this head and 4 limbs and torso. So
Large, small,
human size, human scale.
and are there how many are crew?
Well, the Greys I'm familiar with from investigating the crash at Bologna, which is misnamed the crash at Roswell. It's not the crash at Roswell, it's the crash at Bologna, Mexico. Those were Greys, those were both tall. And the Nordics are typically human sized, probably, I'm from 5-6 feet tall. And same with the people who mislabel reptilian and insect work. They're roughly that top height too. I haven't heard anything about it.
Tim Gallaudet looks uncomfortable, and you just know Avi Loeb there on the left, he's just thinking like, yes, but how can we get funding for more?
7 or 8 feet away.
So that was that, right? And that went out to thousands and thousands of people, right? Yes, it does look like they want to laugh, Beans and Rice. It's a weird clip. But the fact is, that went out to thousands of people. Eric Davis, who holds, I mentioned in the video that I just put out yesterday, you know, level 9 TSS, top secret, sensitive, compartmentalized information clearance, level 9. He's written 38 papers for the government on UAPs and all that kind of stuff. But everyone doesn't care because they're talking about LUE Elizondo showing pictures of cornfields. You know, you have to wonder, like, is that intentional? Like, did that happen intentionally to kind of steal the headlines on whatever was going to come out? Like, it's just crazy. Polydoom with the $5. This isn't much, but I want to help you pay for that software. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Appreciate the love there. Yeah, it's very disappointing for a $500 program. But honestly, I think you get better results. I should have just not put the captions on and just let people activate the YouTube captions, because I think they are actually better. So if you guys do go check out that playlist and you want to see all the people speaking, I'd probably recommend just put on the YouTube captions. So look, yeah, that was just that. I just wanted to bring that in quickly. We've got 2 more things to get into. The next one is I wanted to give a little update on the drones. Okay, the FAA approved drones that were not UAP, that were not non-human intelligence, that were just your everyday DJI enthusiast flying his drone around. Okay? You conspiracy theorist nut job. So let's move along to that. That's not it. So just the other day, this week, there was a hearing, which is interesting, right? There was a hearing into like the unauthorized drones. I'm pretty sure that was even the title in it, which is like a direct contradiction to the fact that they were all just like FAA approved drones. Why are you having hearings about approved drones? Doesn't really make sense straight off the bat. But the head of the FAA was meant to be there. He was meant to be like testifying under oath. This was meant to be like a very official thing to get to the bottom. And then at the very last minute, this happened.
In 2024 alone, 350 drones were detected flying over our military installations.
Wrong one. Sorry, we'll get to that one in a sec. At the very last minute, this happened.
Due to unforeseen circumstances, the FAA is no longer testifying at today's hearing, but they have committed to answering in writing any questions that our members have. If any member has questions they would like to submit to the FAA following this hearing, please get them to staff for the FAA to answer.
Last minute, no show.
Now we're going to administer the oath to the witnesses.
How annoying, right? Like you get everyone there. This guy's got his suit and tie on. Everyone's looking schmick. And then you get there and it's like, and it turns out that he's not coming and he won't be testifying. So we're all here for nothing. Woo! All right, I'm going to show you a couple of clips from the hearing. It's just complete garbage, but I'm not showing you these clips to show you any revelations. I'm showing you these clips to show you the absolute garbage that goes on in these places. And by the way, shout out to Red Panda. I pretty much got all these clips from him.
In 2024 alone, 350 drones were detected flying over our military installations, over 100 to be exact. And that came straight out of the mouth of General Gregory Gillett, commander of NORAD and U.S. Northern Command. These were not just toys, these were intelligence gathering, signal jamming, and potentially weaponized drones. These incursions happened while the Biden administration sat on their hands, allowing bureaucracy and interagency dysfunction to run the show. I see a lot of military here right now. You guys all know that bureaucracy many times can be our worst enemy. Now that President Trump is back in office, thank God, we finally have strong leadership again, but cleaning up Biden's national security blunder is no small task. Our military installations are still extremely vulnerable. As hearing just sitting here from other some of my colleagues, we have the CCP, Iranian proxies, Mexican cartels. They all know this. We are here today to fix that, and let me be crystal clear. As I'm sure many of you would agree, if you are flying unauthorized drones over military installations, you You should expect it to be shot down. Don't expect Uncle Sam to pay for it either. My opinion is play stupid games.
Oh yeah, that's right. That clip ended abruptly. It just is what it is. But what I wanted to say about that is that just like in the statement from the White House, the whole we can manipulate time and space, in that clip and in that statement, what I noticed is like there's just so much unnecessary slandering of the opposite political party, where like she's saying, you know, like, oh, under the Biden administration, they didn't do anything, but they're not here anymore, thank God. Like, it's just, you know, I don't give a shit what your political alignment is. I think it's all fake and gay. But the unnecessary slandering, it's like, dude, you've won. You're in term for the next 4 years. Like, constantly having a dig at the opposition isn't going to help people like you anymore. In fact, you're just going to piss people off who do lean to the left, right? You know, if you want to talk about unity and you want to talk about, you know, unifying people, like, you just don't need to keep having a dig. Like, that's not going to make people go like, oh, like someone who is left leaning isn't going to be like, oh yeah, thank God. Yeah, I agree with Luna now. Like, no, you're just going to piss people off. It's just so stupid. And I don't like politics in general, but I just wish like before COVID, I feel like it was so much less like when someone had a different opinion or a different political alignment, it was like you just disagreed with them, but you didn't hate them. You didn't rip on them all the time. Whereas now it's like, if you don't agree with me, you are the enemy. You are the straight up enemy and I hate you and I want to fight you. And it's just so sad and so ridiculous. And I feel like if people just unplug from that shit for like, you know, a week and just let their mind kind of reset and relax, you realize you're like, oh, actually, you're just a human who kind of thinks a little bit differently, and that's okay. Like, it's not really a problem. It's only a problem if I make it a problem, if I buy into all the bullshit that's on my TV screen, right? It's just sad. But I will say that I do like Luna. I like how much of a hard ass she is. She really holds her own in these settings. And she seems like she wants to get shit done. There are, you know, people who speculate about her being just as kind of, you know, corrupt as the rest of them. There are some weird kind of things going on, but, you know, I can't comment on that because I don't know. But like anything, we should take everyone in this space with a grain of salt, not fully subscribe to anything or anyone, and just constantly evaluate the information that's coming in. $5 from Toxic Barrett. The giant UFO buried in Australia is the bus that brought the aliens that live in Mount Zeal. I could get down with that. Maybe the UFO's under Mount Zeal. Who knows? Mistakes are going to happen, and now anything that he throws forward at us is going to be scrutinized and vetted by the community, which may be a good thing in the end. Just keeping it a buck. Yeah, look, I mean, I think with LUE, anything that he brings now is going to get torn to shreds. Like, if he doesn't bring something that is just like impenetrable and concrete, I mean, his credibility is already hanging on by a thread, by an absolute thread. So he better be very careful when, I mean, that sounds like a threat. That comes across like I'm going to do something about it. I'm not going to do anything about it, but he should just, for his own sake, be careful that anything he puts out now is going to be like analyzed crazy. All right, we got another drone clip here.
Homeland is no longer a sanctuary. And should our adversary...
Sorry, I think this guy was basically the guy who was speaking on behalf of the FAA for the for the drone side of things. This was a guy getting questioned.
Choose to employ drones for surveillance or even attack, we would not be prepared to adequately defend our homeland and only marginally capable to defend our military installations.
Under current authorities, what is preventing base commanders from neutralizing these immediately, in my opinion, going out there with a shotgun and shooting these things down?
Bit of a poorly worded question, but continue.
Thank you, ma'am, for the question. I wish it were as simple as shooting it with a shotgun, but it's not.
Depending on elevation, but what's stopping it? Is it still the bureaucratic red tape and sign-offs? Because in my opinion, if you're flying something like this that can collect jam communications, maybe carry explosives, collect surveillance on classified systems, I don't think that you should have to be required to make a phone call. I think that if you see it, you should shoot it down.
Fair.
Yes, under 130I, unauthorized surveillance would meet the standard for engagement. If it were interfering with your operations, it would meet the standard for engagement. If you're not a 130I, then again, back to the rules of engagement and establishing hostile intent or hostile act. But you may get there. So just the presence of that drone over your base may meet hostile intent or hostile act. There is not a set of circumstances I can tell you in every case and go down a checklist. Okay, you met it. Go ahead and shoot.
Sir, I mean, I think you might agree. If you are flying a drone in any capacity, I don't care if it's civilian or not, over a military installation, I don't even think you should have to go to a checklist. I think that it should automatically be taken down.
And I think that was the argument from the start, right? It's kind of like, okay, if this, like, what is this and why are they still there? And it's, you know, I feel like people always think about the New Jersey drones, right? Because that was when it was rampant in New Jersey and we were seeing the footage filmed from like everybody's phone. It was like, okay, what is going on? What is going on? And now they're trying to say, oh, they're just FAA approved. But it's like, well, what about in the UK when they were over like Lakenheath Airport, Air Force Base? And then it was like a year ago, they were all over Langley Air Force Base too in the United States. So why, you know, like there's no, they answer one part of it, but they don't have answers for the other parts. Like it's just, it doesn't really make sense. Mickey says now they're all over the UK. Sonda Thought says a craft flying in an unauthorized airspace like a military base, I thought had legal rights to shoot it down. I swear that is the case. Well, Sonda, you would think so. The fact that these things were swarming Langley Air Force Base for over a week to the point where it was shut down. And actually, during the whole New Jersey wave of drones towards the end of last year, didn't Wright-Patterson Air Force Base get shut down for like a day or two? Maybe it's just a day. But the fact that it got shut down is huge. Like, you don't shut down, if like, that's essentially like a coward move, right? This is something hovering over your base that you are now shutting down and leaving your base. That's like you're retreating. Why aren't you getting rid of it? You're the military. Get rid of it. It's not meant to be there. It's over your sensitive facility. Don't run away. Get rid of it. Am I wrong or like what? I don't think they are ours, only so far as separate entity to the government. Trying to shut down an airport too. Maybe they can't be shot down, so they don't even attempt to. Well, Michael, that would be the case if we look at what video did I show that in, where I showed, I think it was in the video where we looked at the 9 Skywatcher UAPs, and I said how much the jellyfish UAP looked like that video that I think came from, you know, some kind of FLIR footage from Afghanistan of a missile being shot through these objects, and it just kind of goes straight through it, and it kind of not explodes, but you see it go through it, and it kind of ripples out, and then just slowly reforms back to the same spot. So I'm sure some of you guys know the video that I'm referring to, but like, yeah, I think that could be the case. I mean, that's the only explanation that makes sense, right? Why wouldn't the military shoot them down and shut their base down? Well, they can't. That's the only reason. I mean, they shot down the Chinese weather balloon, right? That was like a year ago or 2 years ago at this point. Shot that down. That was over sensitive airspace. They shot down, remember those 2 UFOs that were allegedly shot down like over Canada or Alaska? Somewhere up north that like we heard that there was something shot down, but then never heard anything about anything being found. Like, you shot those down. Why didn't you shoot down the other things? Well, maybe you can't. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Rear Admiral Spadero, how many drone incursions have taken place over U.S. military installations over the past 2 years? We got the number last time we had a briefing of 350, but have they grown, or what's the current data you're willing to share?
Yeah, so the exact number I'd be happy to share in a classified setting, but I can tell you that it has grown.
I'm actually curious, why did we get the 350 number in an unclassified setting? That was one of the questions I had.
It's a great question, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So it's just such bullshit, isn't it? Like, oh, I can only tell you that in a classified setting. It's like, bro, why are we here? What are we doing? What are we doing? The place is empty. The guy who's meant to be here isn't even here. You're telling me that you can only tell me in a classified setting, just pack up, go home. You've wasted everybody's time. One thing I wanted to kind of mention is that, I mean, let's go back to the whole Matthew Livelsberger thing, right? The Cybertruck bomber who, because remember, a guy died. Like, a guy died, and before he died, all this stuff came out about him saying that these drones are Chinese and that, you know, they have this anti-gravity tech and, you know, it's kind of pushing us to a World War III, inevitable mutual destruction, right? That was kind of what was coming through this Matthew Livelsberger. And then it made its way onto Sean Ryan, which, you know, feels like a whole CIA op in itself. But what I wanted to say about that is, what if, like, I feel like I'm piecing together this theory from a few different places. One is Matthew Livelsberger, and the other I can't quite remember, so maybe you guys can help me where I'm getting this from. But with the statement that the White House put out, you know, then it seems like they're now trying to get the wheels moving in the fact that, you know, we have technology that can manipulate time and space. You know, we want to start pushing the innovation. We would know that whatever they're saying is coming out, they've already had it for a long time, right? That's just how technology works. It goes into the military, they have it and use it, then they upgrade, and then it rolls out to the public. And it feels like what should have been rolled out to the public a long time ago has been suppressed, whether we want to call it free energy, but the technological innovation has definitely stalled, right? And it seems like China has really taken the lead when it comes to that. What if some of the drones, not all of them, but some of the drones were Chinese and they weren't able to be shot down, and they were basically China putting these over America to create what happened, you know, a bit of hysteria, all these people saying what the hell is going on, pushing the whole topic of UFOs and free energy and all of this stuff into the mainstream, or at least into the zeitgeist more, and therefore putting the pressure on the American government to talk about it. Because there are ideas and theories that, you know, we know that these kind of countries sort of collaborate in some kind of way. They probably don't share exactly what they're all doing, but they all know that they're recovering craft, and they all know that they're reverse engineering technology in their own private manner. Okay, that's pretty clear on this topic. There's probably some kind of agreement or something at some point to say, you know, we're not ready to release this level of technology yet. We're not. But it seems like China are ready, and they do want to do that. And the drones could potentially be China's way of putting them over America and saying, you guys need to start releasing this shit. You guys need to start disclosing now, because like we're sick of waiting. Now, that's a very like pulled together theory that is probably not totally accurate, but it's a potential way of thinking. That could be in some realm of truth. Like I said, I don't think they were all China. I don't even know if any of them were China. But the fact is, remember, Matthew Livelsberger, the Cybertruck bomber, you know, he died. Somebody lost their life, which is serious, right? We need to, like, that's a serious thing. And before he did, and this guy also had a TSSCI clearance, and he put out that big manifesto, and he mentioned China. So I think it's worth considering, right? It's worth considering when we got no explanation as to what they are. We got no explanation. And one thing the US would never say, they would never come out and say, yeah, they were China with way more advanced tech than us. You know, they're pushing us to try and, you know, release this kind of stuff as well. They would never say that. But they obviously weren't too concerned about it, because there was literally no reaction. There was no reaction, and there was no explanation. And Matthew Livelsberger also just kind of dissipated into the nothingness. So I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up. I'm not trying to tell you guys that's what I think, but what I always try to do with this channel is encourage different ways of thinking, because at the end of the day, we don't know. Like, none of us really know the full picture, and I think it's always worth considering different things and alternative ways of thinking. So yeah, that's my theory. Maybe the drones were, or a part of the drones were a way of non-Five Eyes countries, probably China, maybe others, to put pressure on the West to get a move on with disclosure because this shit is ready to go. Like, you know, we're sick of holding it back. And because I think we can all agree that the West and the US at the top of that has been holding this stuff back. I mean, that's quite clear, right? We know that. Cliff High talks of the ontology as a new place of being where things are so complex that its novelty can't be summed, but who knows on that. Yeah, Cliff High's got some really interesting takes. And I've, you know, I think I said this recently, maybe in the Matthew Brown stream, and we'll get onto the last section in a second. I just want to say this quickly, that technology is innovating and improving so quickly, right? I think it's Moore's law that says every 2 years, computing power doubles. And that's obviously exponential, right? That's exponential. So every 2 years, the doubling is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we could arguably say that we haven't had that in the public eye for a long time. It's been happening in secret. You know, if we think about this, if we have ChatGPT for free, which is very powerful and very smart, what do you think they have? We get that. We don't have to pay for it. You can pay for it, but you get it for free. Everyone can have that for free. What does that mean the military and DARPA have in the darkest, deepest, blackest projects, right? It's probably, it would appear like magic to us. I mean, there's the saying, any sufficiently advanced technology will appear as magic. And you can apply that to any point in time because it's true, right? And I feel like we're at a point now where in these black projects, the technology is doubling. The exponential doubling is at a point now where if they don't release it soon, when they do try and tell us where they're at, it's going to be like, people aren't probably not even going to believe it because it's just going to look like so, it's going to be hard to fathom. It's going to shatter what we understand as truth and reality, that it's like, maybe the ticking timer on it is that like, if you don't disclose it soon, when you do disclose it, it's going to be so far out that people's minds are just going to melt. I don't know. That's my theory. That's my little ramble on the drones in China and all of that. The next and last thing, which is just a quick thing that I wanted to look at, is the Bob Lazar thing that's coming out soon. So there's that, I think there's like a movie coming with it. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So I've got the trailer here. The whole trailer is about 3 minutes long. I've just cut it down to a minute just in case you have any copyright issues. But I just thought we could watch this trailer because I haven't actually properly checked it out yet. But it looks like it's going to be really exciting. Let's check this out.
Hi, I'm Bob Lazar. In December of 1988, I was hired as a senior staff physicist by a U.S. defense contractor called EG&G Special Projects. I was told that I would be working on an advanced propulsion system out in a remote area of the Nevada test site, known as Area 51. Wanting to protect myself, I decided to go public and reveal the secrets of S4. Well, there's actually 9 flying saucers, flying discs that are out there of extraterrestrial origin.
Okay, I realized I actually brought in the whole trailer, which is not what I meant to do. And let me just, yeah, this is the other bit that I wanted to really show you guys. Hopefully we don't get copyrighted for this. The only reason I care about the copyrights is because if people watch the stream back and there's been a copyright strike, it means they won't see the chat, which makes it look like I'm just a deranged man who's talking to himself for 2 hours. And half of that might be true, but I want to make sure I keep, you know, the best product for anyone who has to watch it back.
The information we're getting now is going to come to an end.
The slightest wrong move could release a tremendous amount of energy.
Okay, so I've obviously butchered this because I wanted to show you this bit.
Saw with my own eyes. Until now.
All right, that's enough of that. Basically, he says, no one has ever seen what I saw with my own eyes until now. And this is the bit that I was kind of looking at. And what he means, because what I understand this whole Project Gravator thing to be, is not only is there going to be a movie, is there kind of going to be a whole storytelling aspect to this project, but what I understand is that they have recreated S4. They've recreated exactly where Bob Lazar worked in 3D. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be, you're going to be able to go walk through it and look through it with a VR headset. That's what I'm pretty sure this project is, and that is it. I'm fairly certain that is a 3D rendering. Well, it's obviously a 3D rendering. It's not a photo of a UFO, but that is 3D rendering of what we're going to see if you go and look at this thing in 3D, which is, I just thought was super cool. And I'm excited for that. I mean, I don't have a 3D headset. I don't have a VR headset, by the way. But I'm hoping that we can check this thing out without having a VR headset, because it does look really cool. But yeah, sorry, I kind of butchered that trailer. But if you just search Bob Lazar, Project Gravator S4, I'm sure it'll come up. It's about a 3-minute trailer, and that's coming up soon, so it should be pretty exciting. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for today, guys. Like I said, there's just been so much happening this week. It's been impossible to keep up with everything. It really has. Like I said, after all of that, Jacques Vallée did an hour and something with Ross Coulthard on News Nation, which I haven't even watched yet. I don't know if anyone else has watched it. But guys, make sure you join our Discord. It's a lot of fun. We're pretty much active in there 24/7. We post links. We post things we're finding. It's a lot of fun when it comes to discovering the truth about this whole UFO phenomenon subject. So I think that's pretty much it, guys. Can we see some weirdos in the chat? Some Polarity loves, Polarity hearts. I appreciate all of you guys being here as always. Got two exciting things coming this week. One is the interview with Ashton Forbes, which is going to be recorded tomorrow, but you'll see it later in the week. And the other thing that I talked about last week, which I said was really exciting, to do with the Harold Malmgren thing. So much stuff happened that I just didn't have time to do it this week, but it is coming very soon, so look forward to that. Thank you for being here. Get outside, touch some grass. I'll see you next time.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it